This is the $80 Endor Speeder Chase set, a LEGO Star Wars set that most people would tell you costs too much money, but that's par for the course when it comes to LEGO Star Wars. I just don't think the minifigs are very good. But in this video, I'm going to take this $80 build and we are going to expand it to a nearly $500 build because I'm going to buy 6 more of these sets to create the ultimate LEGO Endor Forest Speeder Bike Chase. So our first order of business is to go shopping and buy 6 more of these. My first stop was Target, where I unfortunately only found 1 of the Endor sets, which means we still need 5 more. I headed off to Walmart in hopes of finding more Endor sets, but unfortunately, they didn't have any. However, they did have some killer clearance deals, including 4+ ATSTs for half off, so I picked up 10 of them for $17 each. After my unexpected jackpot, I went off to a Super Target, where I found 3 more of the Endor Speeder Chase sets. That leaves us just 2 to go. I booked it across town to another Walmart, hoping to recreate the luck I had at the last one. However, this one neither had the Endor diorama or any good clearance deals left for me. I left empty-handed and went to my third and final Target, where I found they had 6 Endor Speeder Chase sets, meaning I could have just came here first and saved myself a lot of time. I ended up buying 3 here, so I'll have a 7th just in case I need extra parts while building. I figured it's better to have the insurance because I spent so long driving around town looking for these. Now I get to open all of these boxes and begin my project. So this is 6 Endor sets worth of parts here, and taking a peek inside the instruction manual will actually tell us what we need to do first, because we're just going to open all of the bag ones at once and build one giant base. Building the base was very simple. I went with a 6x3 layout with the plates given to me, making a rather large base. I had to support it on the bottom with lots of black plates, and then I built up the side paneling, which I had to go through a few small variations of to add in the little silver grill pieces, but the design ended up being rigid enough and I was very happy with it. So now we are moving on. I have all of these extra pieces in black that won't really be useful for this build, so I'm actually just going to add them to my parts collection for maybe another build someday. Now, with bag 2, we are doing the forest floor with some green, and we actually have to keep in mind to leave spaces for where the trees will connect onto the forest floor. Otherwise, we're going to have to, like, retrofit it, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to figure out where I want to set the trees now so that it creates, like, the best foresty look, and I can have a nice path for the speeders to be running through. Corey's here to help, and I've had a change of heart as to the order of operations here. I think it'd be better if I built the trees first. Then, because they'll be built, I can actually physically see them, and then we'll add the forest floor. So, you want to build some trees? Sure. Here you go. Wait, bags 3 is what we'll do first. My first tree is done. Corey's tree is like half barked. This is all shrubbery. I'm actually gonna have to set this to the side. I'm gonna set the Leia aside to sell because I'm not keeping this crappy figure. But yeah, these we're going to use for the forest floor later on. Obviously, they add them now in the instructions, but I want to space out my trees before I add in a bunch of shrubbery that I'm going to have to move anyway. We're almost done with the trees. We have built 10 of the 12 that we were going to build. Corey's building the last 2, and I've skipped ahead to the speeder bikes, where I've built a speeder bike for 1 Scout Trooper, a speeder bike for Luke and Leia, and then I'm going to build 1 more Scout Trooper speeder bike so that I can recreate the scene where the Scout Trooper crashes into the tree. It was something I was disappointed the original set didn't have an option for, so now I'm going to do it myself within the confines of my big ol' Endor mock here. So we have 12 trees done, and from a low angle it actually looks pretty good. However, on the backside of the build we still have a pretty big empty spot. I was gonna say we should build 2 more trees, but I think 1 more really would do the trick to fill out the space that I feel like needs to be filled out to make it not feel empty, because you just have a pretty large space there. And I tried rearranging stuff, it just didn't, work to my liking. So I think 1 more tree will do the trick. Trees. And while he works on that, I'm going to get into these bag 2s and start filling out the forest floor. And then we have all of our extra shrubbery pieces over here. That is going to be very useful. So I'm excited to start because it still looks like a Minecraft world almost to me with this really bland flooring. So we're going to spice it up. So Corey finished 1 last tree for us, and now we can fill in this big blank space here. We're going to put it somewhere about yonder ought to fit right in there, and so we'll still have our main path kind of meandering through the middle, but it doesn't feel as like open and exposed at the back anymore. So I've been working on the forest floor, as you can see, and that's coming together well. But yeah, very happy, and I'm just going to finish up the forest floor now, and we'll be pretty close to a finished product. I was pretty sure I'd run out of these dark green pieces for the forest floor because there's so much empty space on the normal set of just regular like dirt, and so I wanted to cover as much with green as I could, but it turns out I didn't need as much as I thought I did, and it still looks really good to me. Maybe I could have made it a little more dense, but generally I'm really happy with the way the forest floor came out. Now we need to add some finer details like Ewoks and speeder bikes crashing into trees. To accomplish this effect though, I don't think the parts in the set would have done it justice, so I went upstairs to grab some fiery pieces from my parts collection to hopefully make it look a bit more explosive on the tree that I selected. Creating the bike crash was a lot of fun. I had to rig up the back end of the bike, and then I wasn't going to put the front end of the bike in, but then I was like, oh no, I can like have it being shown thrown off to the side, and then have the scout trooper flying through the middle, and I found the perfect little piece to hold that scout trooper up, attached him onto the tree, and now he's flying off into the forest. Before we finish, I want to see what this silly ATST looks like in the mock, and it's a set for 4-year-olds, so I actually, you're going to have to build that. It's a little below my pay grade. That, and we have some Ewoks to add, so let's put the finishing touches on this mock. I'm thrilled. So before I show you the finished product, I want to show you all the stuff that's left over. Again, it cost me about $600 for the 7 Endor sets, and then the 1 4+ ATST set that I ended up using for the build. I didn't end up using the other ATSTs because Wicket is a named Ewok, and I figured, why would I have a bunch of Wickets? I should just put one in as an Easter egg, and so that's what I did. But I would say there's a good couple $100 of leftover stuff here. Plenty of sealed speeder bikes with scout troopers, lots of Luke and Leia's, some printed bricks, and plenty of black pieces from like the outside of the build that I didn't end up needing. So there's a lot of leftover stuff that I'll be able to sell and recoup a good bit of cost from. I still don't think you should do this. I don't think it's worth your money to get a build this big of Endor. I think like the original set still looks pretty good, except for the 2 minifigs. But yeah, that's everything I had left over. Let's take a look at the finished build. I'm going to start out with my biggest regret of this build, and it's that I couldn't make any of the trees taller. I just didn't have enough extra trees. I thought basically I could take 2 trees and basically stack them on top of each other to make a double height tree, because the idea behind the Lego tree was that it's cut off, and so it's supposed to inspire the idea that it extends into the heavens. Well, not really maybe that high, but it, has more tree to it than what is represented. And so I thought it would be cool to be able to build more tree, but at the end of the day, I only had 1 tree left, so having 1 tree be like stupid tall just wouldn't make sense. But yeah, maybe something in the future, if I ever stumble into like a great clearance deal on the Endor diorama sets, then I'll take some more trees and throw them on top, because I'm not going to get rid of this build now that I'm done. But I do still think the top of the forest looks good enough, and even though it is the same exact 2 tree designs over and over, it looks pretty varied. I mean, none of it looks very uniform. Maybe it's just because of the way I spread the trees out. Now, the Wicket I did put to use here is kind of hiding behind the tree as the speeders whiz past him, and then you have the ATST looming in the background, which does look a bit goofy because it's the 4+ one, but whatever, I threw it back there for fun. But yeah, I like having Wicket in there just kind of as a small Easter egg. I liked the idea of having a bunch of Ewoks, but I just don't think it works with, having all the exact same Ewok in there. It just wasn't going to look good to me. It would have looked uniform, unlike the way the trees don't look uniform. I'm still very surprised with how the forest floor turned out. When I started, really thought I was going to end up with large swaths of uncovered land, and that just wasn't the case, and I had so many extra parts, it made me feel like I set out and did it wrong, but it still turned out great. I totally didn't anticipate bringing extra parts into it, but the fire and the clips really went a long way to making the speeder bike crash look convincing. I just love having the scout trooper flying off. In the movie, actually, everything just kind of disappears when it hits the tree trunk, but I thought it looked way cooler to actually still have the speeder flying off in multiple directions and looking like it's actually on fire and, like a real crash. Now, I did away with the quote tile that the official set has, but I kept the Lego Star Wars logo front and center because I thought it looked spiffy. Right there, we have the Luke and Leia speeder bike with a scout trooper right behind them. Now, I purposefully made the Luke and Leia speeder bike straight up because I wanted it to feel like they are moving straight. And then the scout trooper I purposefully had being like turned a little bit because I thought it looked better that he'd be coming around the bend trying to catch up to Luke and Leia as they're kind of entering a straightaway. I thought that that just added a bit of movement to the build. It also kind of gives off the idea that he is trying to avoid the same fate of his scout trooper buddy there, so he's like just going around the tree instead of into the tree like him. And then finally at the very back we have the ATST, which is obviously the juniors model, so it doesn't aesthetically look very good. However, the size of it worked really well. I wasn't gonna put it in the build, but it kind of fit so perfectly underneath the tree branches that I felt like I had to put it in there. It looks awful, but my lord, does the size work surprisingly nicely. And now I want to show you the official Lego set versus my massive mock from the official Lego set. Again, the base size is 6 times bigger than what we had in the official set, and it uses 7 total of the sets, plus a 4+ ATST kind of lurking back there. So quite a few more pieces in the larger mock one, and I think it looks phenomenal compared to the official Lego set. Now, of course, it's using a lot of the builds and techniques. It's just a size expansion. I didn't really do anything super crazy that they didn't already do. I just put more money into it, I guess. But I do, you know, really appreciate the build from this Endor bike chase. I didn't love the Luke and Leia minifig, so I kind of expanded upon what I already liked about the set, and I think that helps a lot with something like this. So the size comparison is just crazy. It's such a small forest for the Lego set versus what you can do if you buy a bunch of them. And just because I had it handy, this is my Trench Run alternate build versus my Endor alternate build. I think the Trench Run used just as many trench runs, but costs less because the set costs 3/4 the amount the Endor set costs. But let me know in the comments below which Lego Star Wars set I should make a mega expansion of next, and leave a like if you enjoyed, because this was an expensive video.